Hey, what's going on, everybody? Commander Crane here, and we are back with the 5th episode of the Alabastard podcast. So, I am joined with Ryan as well as a few new people. So, I'm here with Ryan, Landon, and Ray. So, Ryan, how are you doing today?
Pretty good, man. How about you?
I'm doing great. We're going to record the podcast, and we have two new people today. So, first one is Landon. Landon Golds, how are you doing today?
Hey man, I'm doing great. Ready to talk about some magic.
Okay, all right. And then Ray, also joined by Ray. How are you doing, Ray?
Hey, I'm doing all right.
All right.
I'm
All
gonna say
right. You're just
we're getting ready to talk.
Sure. Okay. All right. So a little bit of backstory, real quick. So obviously, Ryan has been. I think he's done every single podcast episode. I don't think Ryan's missed one. Maybe one. I can't really remember. But so Landon and Ray, I've been friends with for quite some time now. Ray actually the longest, really, of the bunch, at least that's here today. But yeah, obviously very experienced Magic players. I know both of them have had a lot of success in competitive Magic. So when it comes to their opinions with when it comes to standard, pioneer, and modern, they are people that I definitely look forward to talking to when it comes to overall opinions. And I'm definitely looking forward to hearing what they have to say today. Hunter possibly will join us later in the episode. I can't say for certain what time he'll maybe be on, but he potentially will be involved in that. But anyways, so today we're going to be talking about the bans that just happened. Obviously, the name of the episode is the Alabastard podcast number 5. They ban cards in Standard, which I guess, over the last few years, it seems like they either ban a lot of cards in Standard or like no cards in Standard. It doesn't really feel like an in-between, but there was a huge ban announcement that happened. But before we really hop into the cards here, this is really the itinerary for today. We're going to talk about the updated ban and restricted list update. We each have standard picks that we're going to talk about. Normally, when we do the podcast episode, we talk about a card from the new set that's coming out that we're really excited to play, but obviously the last set that we did was Final Fantasy, and Edge of Eternity's spoilers have not yet started, so we're going to be talking about cards that we're excited to play in this upcoming standard format. And then, as always, we're going to finish with the channel member Q&A, which we have a couple spicy questions today, so overall, I'm really excited to talk about those today. But hopping into it officially now, we're a few minutes in and I really haven't said much. The ban and restricted list update. So we're only going to be talking about standard, and we're also going to talk about the, I guess, lack of changes in Pioneer and Modern. I'm not counting the Pioneer Best of One Tybalt's Trickery ban. No one even plays Pioneer Best of One that actually really plays Pioneer, so I'm not really talking about that today. But for standard, we had a whole bunch of cards that were banned. Ray, off the top of your head, can you think of all 7 cards that were banned?
All 7?
All 7.
I know this town ain't big enough. Then we got the 2 red cards, the Monstrous Rage and the Mouse.
Uh-huh. There's technically another red card, but
Was it Hopeless Nightmare? Actually, let me see here. I think I pulled up a sheet with all of them. So
no, God, I was hoping you didn't.
Cheater,
See,
cheater.
I thought ahead. So, we got the Hopeless Nightmare, and we got the Corey Steel Cutter, the Abuelo's Awakening, and then the card I'm most sad about is the Up the Beanstalk. I love that. I love that card. I think. Did I get them all? Did I miss one?
No, you got them all. That's all 7. So I did not check this ahead of time, but I have to imagine that this is probably the most amount of cards banned in Standard at the same time since probably Mirrodin. I know, Ryan, you've been playing for quite some time. Is that correct? Like, I mean, can you really think of a time where they banned this many cards in one announcement in one format?
So I was gonna check, and then I'm lazy and I did not. But I think you're correct. The last time they banned a huge chunk of them was like Kaladesh era, where they banned like Attune, Copter, Ferocidon, Emrakul. There was like a bunch of bans around that time. I don't think there were 7 at once though. And then it depends if you count like soft bans or erratas. So like when they changed the companion mechanic, that kind of nerfed 10 cards, but it wasn't really a ban. So I think this is a record.
Okay. I wasn't quite sure on that. I just kind of was assuming because I don't remember them ever. I mean, this is a big shakeup. I mean, which we're gonna kind of talk about it in a moment here. But I mean, like this is huge. Like realistically, like the top like 3.5, 4 decks are like super nerfed in the format, which I think one is still going to exist. It's just going to be in a slightly different form. But yeah, so standard, obviously, we had those big changes. And then for Pioneer, normal Pioneer, there were no changes. And then with Modern, there was also no changes. So I want to just kind of start by going in order with all the different cards. Some I have grouped together, which will make sense because they're kind of played together a little bit. But I want to talk about some of these cards, and we're just going to kind of go, around. Everyone's going to give their opinion. So the first batch here is Heartfire Hero and Monstrous Rage. Although, like they see play in the same deck. Obviously, there's some different styles to them. But I want to talk about these two cards specifically. Landon, I'm going to give you the floor first. What are your thoughts on Heartfire Hero and Monstrous Rage being banned out of Standard?
Yeah, I've been talking about Monstrous Rage being banned for a while, along with pretty much every other Standard player, especially best of one players. I feel like they're honestly just sick and tired of that card. So pretty much I feel like everyone was on the same page about that card. But the thing that I hear people talking about is Heartfire Hero. And I think it's just because a lot of people expected like the Manifold Mouse or one of the other mice, like part of the, the 12 card mouse package that they just, they printed the deck directly into Standard when Bloom Barrow came out. People kind of expected like the more specific mouse card to go, whereas they kind of took out like, Mono Red's one drop right now. Like we still have, Swift Spirit for now. Is Swift Spirit one of those cards that's rotating? I'm not sure, but
yes, yep. Swift Spear is rotating at the end of July.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So Brothers War. Yeah. So I don't know if I don't actually know if I really agree with the Heartfire Hero going myself, because I think I don't know how the meta is going to shake out, but I just have a sneaking suspicion with how hard that they hit, the aggro decks, the red decks with Cutter, Heartfire Hero, and Monstrous Rage. I'm a little bit worried about the control decks. I don't really. I mean, I'm a red player. I play bad red decks though. I don't really play mono red, but still, like I'm a little bit worried about the control decks not having a fast enough aggro deck to keep them in check. So I don't know. Heartfire Hero is an extremely powerful card though, so obviously it makes sense why they would ban it. I'm hoping that there's another red aggro deck that doesn't need that that card, which is a mouse, but not specifically so egregious outside of the whole Manifold Mouse thing. I don't know. Those are my thoughts.
Okay, yeah. Honestly, I pretty much agree with everything you said. When I get to my turn, honestly, I want to talk about Heartfire Hero in a different format. Spoiler alert. But yeah, Ryan, I'm going to give you the floor next. I know that you are also a red mage. Obviously, you were a state champion with a red aggro deck a while ago. So, red aggro is something that you specialize in. So I guess the floor is yours. What are your thoughts on this ban?
It's weird that the best two decks in Standard are my two favorite decks, and they're like, I don't know, 50-60% of the metagame. But I think it's probably a good ban for the health of the format. Everyone has been clamoring for Monstrous Rage for a long time. Although I'll talk a little bit about why I don't think that's really going to matter that much later. But I think Heartfire Hero is a good ban. It just had so much synergy in the deck. The games where they start with Heartfire Hero, it just feels impossible to win because they're going to start targeting it. It's going to get gigantic. You can't kill it unless you exile it, and you're going to take a bunch of damage. It's kind of warped the format where you need exile-based removal or like specifically temporary lockdown, or you're just in a lot of trouble against the mono red decks. So I think for those reasons, it's probably for the best.
Yeah, honestly, once again, I agree. I would say most likely, I think all of us are going to have the same opinions when it comes to a lot of these bans. Maybe not Ray so much with Up the Beanstalk, which we'll kind of talk about that later on. But Ray, the floor is yours. Your thoughts on the Heartfire Hero and Monstrous Rage ban?
I think that needed to happen. I said there's so many red cards and like underused red cards that anything could take its place. So it's like one of my favorites was like the Firebrand, the 1/1 haste that you can sack to deal damage.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was one of my favorites. He's back, and he's just nowhere to be found. And I'm just like, well, I mean, but with this, you can also play like a big red strategy where you can go into dragons and Screaming Nemesis being like the bottom problem child. So, I mean, I like where it's at because you don't have to be the mouse package anymore. You can play red with more variety.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of potential with that. So I guess we'll head to my opinion. So overall, pretty happy with the bans. Monstrous Rage. I'm gonna sound like a broken record when not necessarily me saying this, but like one of the ways to beat the red deck was blocking with your creatures, and with Monstrous Rage, it kind of takes that factor out. So I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about how good like a combat trick being banned on a standard. I mean, I do top 10 videos for Pioneer, more specific, of like the top 10 cards, the cards I think are going to have the biggest impact. I'm fairly confident Monstrous Rage was not in my Wilds of Eldraine top 10 list. And I think Heartfire Hero maybe was in it, but if it was like number 10. Like, it was really low. So with Monstrous Rage, like, I'm happy that it's gone. The red aggressive starts were just like too fast in part because of Monstrous Rage. Heartfire Hero, similar thing. To be honest with you, when this card was first spoiled, I was like, okay, it's just like, okay, they did Fireblade Charger, now they're doing, and they did Cacophony Scamp, and they're doing Heartfire Hero. It's just another part of the 1/1 for 1, when it dies, deal damage based on its power, whatever. Like, that's all I really thought this card was going to be.
Yeah.
And like with the mouse package being so strong, obviously, like the differences with the Fireblade Charger and the Cacophony Scamp is they don't get bigger the more that your deck synergizes. Obviously, you could put some 1/1 counters on it with like other cards, but like Heartfire Hero just puts 1/1 counters on and grows itself by itself. And obviously with Monstrous Rage, it's also insane because when it dies because of its power, you also get the roll that also goes on it, which gives it 1/1 and trample, which obviously that's the reason why Monstrous Rage being banned, but it just makes Heartfire Hero even that much better. Its play was everywhere at the Pro Tour. It was like half of the metagame decks. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but from my understanding, like it really was about 50%. And like I believe it was Ryan that mentioned it. Like the games where they start with it on turn 1 and you don't have like a Torch the Tower or like a cut down, like it feels like the game's unwinnable. Like, I mean, at that point, it's like every standard deck has had to have some combination of Torch the Tower, like really any 1-drop removal spell, or Anoint with Affliction because it exiles in their deck. Like they have to have a large amount of those or they're just going to lose. Like I think having fast red aggro decks in standard is a good thing because like Landon mentioned, you don't want just these control decks to really go unanswered, and you don't want all the games to just be super grindy. You want to keep decks honest, really regardless of format for the most part. But I think that these cards like really were just a little bit too strong. I know Ray mentioned Fanatical Firebrand, which I believe is in Foundations. I don't know what 1-drop can take the place of Swift Spear when it does rotate. I don't know what red drop that's going to be because ideally you want like a 1/1 with haste or one that's similar to this where it deals some extra damage. So I don't know what card is going to be able to replace Heartfire Hero. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the bans that took place, at least with these cards. I guess, does anyone else have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I can't wait to play them in Standard or in Pioneer.
What was that? Sorry, Ray?
I said I can't wait to play them on a red deck in Pioneer and just play the mouse package, but then you get access to like just better 2 and 3 drops that you had in Standard.
Oh, trust me, I'm gonna talk about that once we get to the once we get to the Pioneer part of this video. Trust me. So, but Ryan, I feel like
mouse players, don't worry, your deck is still intact in Pioneer.
Yes. We love mice in Pioneer. But yeah, Landon, do you have any additional thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was just gonna say I don't know if you guys read the whole ban announcement article or anything, but they were talking about just how they didn't like the combo style aggro decks being in Standard right now, where it's everything's 1-drops and the snowball is just it feels like you're playing against a turn 3 combo deck when that's not really how mono red decks should feel. There should be some kind of tension in the game. It's not just like, oh, do you have Torch the Tower in your hand? If you don't, you lost to the combo kind of thing. So I think taking out, the 1-drop mouse is going to basically, I think you're not going to play Manifold Mouse anymore. You're not just going to like play your 2-drop into your 2-drop Embereth Challenger or whatever. So I think in that way they're kind of trying to take out the combo style aggro decks. So I'm excited to see like if there's a more fair looking but still aggressive red aggro deck that comes out. I'm also kind of thinking like what kind of one drops we're going to see, and I play a lot of one drops in my goblin decks. I just don't think any of those are like um as much like burst damage as you'd want to see from something like a Swift Spear. They're mostly more grindy cards, but yeah, I guess we'll talk more about that when we get to my pick for the card that I'm excited to play.
Yeah, honestly, now that you mentioned the whole like combo oriented, so basically this mono red deck was like Infect. It's kind of that's at least what I remember. Like it's kind of
Yes.
aggro, but it's really just combo.
Yes, it really felt that way playing against it too because I play a lot of red decks, but I would play my kind of grindy aggro wide aggro deck, and I'm playing 4 Torch the Tower in my main deck. Like why do I have to do that in my red aggro deck? But it's just because you will automatically lose to, and I can't block anything either. I'm playing a creature deck I can't block. I have to have 4 Torch the Tower in my red aggressive deck. So it was just warping the format so much.
For
I
sure.
agree. Same with the white decks and playing temp lockdown. If you just didn't have up to 4 of them in the 75, you're just not good against red.
Yep.
Great.
Yep, that's true. Ryan, did you have any closing thoughts on Heart Fairy Hero and Monstrous Rage?
Yeah, I agree with everything. I think there will be a better aggro deck, and by better, I don't mean like more broken. I mean more fair and more healthy for the format.
Yeah, no, I certainly hope so. One thing, I guess, the last thing to note was they did ban these cards, and Cutdown is rotating. So I'm hoping to see if Edge of Eternities does have a good black 1 mana removal spell, because Disfigure I don't think was in Foundation, so I think that's also rotating in the Brothers War. So I'm interested to see if there's another good black 1-drop removal spell that does enter the format. But yeah, no, we'll see what happens. Unless you want to play the Fairy one that gives -3/-3 if you control Fairy. But anyways, so the next cards I want to talk about, or card, is Corey Steel Cutter, which really is not one card. You get so many cards off of this one card. You just get so much value. I think that this is the least surprising of the bans. I think everyone kind of knew that Corey Steel Cutter was going to get banned just because of how efficient this card is, especially with the number of different just good 1 mana spells that are currently in Standard. Ryan, I'm going to have you start with this one just because I know that you're a big Corey Steel Cutter guy. And I know we were talking the other day that you hoped this got banned in Standard so you could buy cheaper copies for Pioneer. So I'll let you go ahead and take the floor on this one.
I don't so Standard. We talked about this a little bit on the last podcast. Standard is kind of weird because when they started building Final Fantasy, they didn't think that it would be in Standard. That was decided later. So the fact that Vivi's in Standard and it's kind of good, I get it. They didn't plan on that. Corey Steelcutter was in Tarkir. Like, they knew what format they were printing this card into. And this card's just obscene. Like, it's a 2-mana monastery core with haste. So I don't know what they play tested with this card, but it's clearly too good for Standard. And it's like borderline too good for Pioneer. Like, it's fantastic in that format as well in a number of decks. So yeah, I think I agree. Everyone thought that Corey was going to be at the top of the list for the ban. I don't think anyone is surprised by it. And I don't think it's actually enough to stop Izzet Prowess, but we'll talk more about that in a minute.
Yeah, honestly, I agree. Ray, I'll have you go ahead and go next. I know you're also a big red lot of spells Izzet guy. So yeah, what are your thoughts on the Corey Steelcutter ban?
Well, the Corey Steelcutter ban kind of took me by surprise, but I mean, like, I wanted Vivi to go, but they never ban a card unless it's super, meta warping, and Vivi wasn't meta warping. So, but Corey Steelcutter, I'm excited to play with it in Pioneer because you have that and Young Pyromancer. So your curve is set right there. But it was very powerful for when it was. I didn't play it in paper, but I played against it online. So I was more on the attempts to play the mid-range type of decks because that's my favorite thing to play. So, but on arena, it was it was just real nasty when they had to go turn two steel cutter, and I just have to play the new dragon, the green one drop that has like three keywords, like Dragon Slayer or something. I would play that, and then they would just make like two tokens on turn three, and I was like, oh, or one token on turn three, and just get run over, and I'm like, oh man.
Okay.
So it was like kind of it's like cool if you're playing it, but if you're playing against it, it didn't make the game fun for me. Like young pyromancer, you could at least they don't grow, they don't do the other stuff. It's not on an artifact. You can kill the creature. It's easier to kill young pyromancer than it is core steel cutter.
The one thing I find interesting with Corey Steelcutter is like with it being unfun to play, at least like if your opponent is and you're not or whatever, is like the gentleman's bet of Corey Steelcutter. Like, okay, we're playing the mirror. Let's agree to we'll cut all 4 of our copies. I just find that hilarious.
No. No.
Yeah.
So, okay, real quick before we hop over to Landon's opinion, Hunter is finally joining us here. So, Hunter, how are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. How is everybody?
Honestly, I'm doing
Well,
pretty good.
Great.
So, yeah, I mean, we're all doing pretty good. We're talking about bands, which, I mean, is good or bad, depending on your opinions on that. But hey, since you joined us, your thoughts on the Corey Steelcutter ban?
Oh, man. So I will start with I absolutely love the card. I love the design. I love what they were trying to accomplish with the card. Um, but it was way too powerful for standard in every way, shape, and form. I even think it's probably a little too powerful for Pioneer, but we'll see what happens when we get there, I guess. Um, but as far as standard goes, it was just like it was too potent as far as like any red deck could play it. Like you could play it in red aggro, you could play it in Is It Prowess, you could play it in Boros Mice, you could play it in like red green Spell Slinger, like the uh Picnic Ruiner deck that I used to play. Like it was just such a versatile card, and it almost was format warping because it forced you and the people playing against you to basically play like a modern style of game where none of your cards are above a 3 mana curve because you either need to be faster than Corey Steelcutter or you need to answer it quickly, which caused a lot of like games to just be like non-games where like turn 2 Steelcutter, pass. Oh, you didn't have a removal spell for Steelcutter? Untap, I win the game. Like, and it was just, it made for very poor play design. And in my opinion, after seeing the recent Pro Tour, the numbers of Is It Prowess running around, like you like for me, Is It Prowess being the best deck in the format is the dream, right? But in this case, that one card specifically was just way, way, way too potent. Way too potent. It was too efficient at what it did, and your opponent's removal spells were not efficient enough to deal with it properly without like sideboarding heavily against it.
Yeah, honestly, it just felt like a nightmare, really, on all angles for the most part. Landon, I'll let you take the floor here. Corey Steelcutter ban, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it was everyone knew it was pretty obvious that it would be banned. It's, the 40 something percent meta share at the recent regional championships and everything. It's a combination of it being too efficient to play and too inefficient to remove without them, the person who played Corey Steelcutter getting some kind of advantage. And that's kind of, we'll talk about it with Up the Beanstalk, but it's a similar thing to Up the Beanstalk where once you play it, you're already winning just by casting the card and having the card in your deck. So yeah, I'm not surprised that the card that is warping standard, pioneer, and it's also taking up a 5% meta share in modern right now, which is also crazy. If you're printing a card into standard that's doing stuff like that, you got a busted card. So I mean, even in modern where they have such much better answers to a card like that, it's still making waves in a format. I mean, it should be pretty obvious that card's not going to last long in standard.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's rare when you print a card in standard that's like good in all formats and isn't like super busted. Like obviously in a format like standard where the power level is much lower, like obviously it's going to be like it's likely going to be way too good. Like it's just too efficient. I mean, like and I guess before I hop into my opinions here, like what would it take for this card to like not be busted but still be played? Like what if it was just like an artifact that was said whenever you cast your second spell make a 1/1 with trample or something or prowess or I don't know. Like how could you make this card where it'd still be like good, maybe even great but not busted?
I think it has to not give trample, or it has to be a creature or something like something where you can remove it and they're not just going to immediately accrue value. Or maybe it's like I don't know, some way to where you can't immediately instant speed create a creature after you play it. I'm not sure how you'd have to word it. Like maybe if you cast it as your second spell, then you create a token. I don't know.
I think that you would need to either remove the instance of prowess off the tokens it makes, or you would need to remove trample and or the +1/+1 off of the steel cutter itself.
Lesson learned.
I
Something
could
like
probably
that.
see.
Oh, sorry, go
I
ahead.
could probably see it being like a 3 or 4 mana card where you have to have, upwards of 5 to 7 mana to pop off in a turn. So, and
Three,
even when you do pop off, you only get a couple 1/1s. So it's like, or 1/1/1 in the same turn.
I think 3 mana, 4 mana would have made it almost unplayable in my opinion. I think 3 mana could have been like the healthy mana value for Corey Steel Cutter.
I believe it. Well, I mean, they did do the Kiki Jiki or whatever for 3 mana,
Fable.
and yeah, Fable of the Mirror Breaker. And it took over a bunch of, that card very good, took over everything. And I'm like, that could have been 4 mana and it still might have did, close to the numbers that it was at 3 mana.
Lesson
Agreed,
learned.
So
but
if you add mana onto this one, it just depends on how much you want to add on to it.
I agree, but personally, I think Fable of the Mirror Breaker is in a higher busted category than what Corey Steel Cutter is, just because you get 3 spells off of 3 mana.
Yeah, I
I
think
can
with
see
Corey
that. I can see
Steelcutter,
that.
like lesson learned, like don't make cheap things that give trample. Just trample's OP. Like that's what we learned at the end of the day. Okay, that's the end of the podcast here. Trample's OP. I'm just kidding. Okay, so I guess my opinion on Corey Steelcutter, like I'll be honest, I'm not going to reiterate anything you guys said. I mean, yeah, way too efficient. Similar to what Landon said about Up the Beanstalk, you get immediate value, so you're never gonna 1-for-1 a card like this, pretty much ever. It was too good for standard. I think even the Izza deck might even still be busted in standard, even without Corey Steelcutter. In Pioneer, and I'll be honest with you, I've played against this card a decent amount. If it becomes a problem in Pioneer, I don't think Corey Steelcutter is what they would actually ban, funny enough. But we'll kind of talk more about that later. But yeah, Corey Steelcutter, busted card. I feel like this was Hunter's pick for Tarkir Dragonstorm. And yeah, this card's nuts. This card is absolutely busted. Busted in half. So
Winner.
Very good.
so yeah,
Winner.
Hunter won the podcast. So okay, let's go and hop into the next card here. So this next one is probably the card that no one ever expected to be banned. I remember building, like, I built, when this card first came out, I built Blue-White Godpharaoh's Gift in Pioneer, rebuilt it, because it was like, hey, we got a new refurbish. It's kind of worse because it makes it a creature, but it's another refurbish for Godpharaoh's Gift. And here we are. The card is banned in Standard. Not the first Lost Caverns of Ixalan card to be banned in Standard. But yeah, it's Abuelo's Awakening, which is kind of crazy. Ray, I'm gonna have you start with this one. Your thoughts on Abuelo's Awakening being banned?
To be honest, it was a surprise to me. I said I like the Omni decks, but at the same time, it's like we also have refurbish, so it's like taking away one of the pieces and forcing them to play a different way, kind of, because you're taking away the creature part. So now it's harder to remove Omniscience. So if you go refurbish Omniscience, it's technically harder because it's not a creature anymore.
I think the refurbish and standard, the tune-up, I think the tune-up, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it only hits artifacts. So, because Abuela's Awakening hits artifacts or non-aura enchantments. I don't know, because they don't really print enchantment reanimation at 4 mana usually. That's like something they don't really do.
Okay, and I am thinking of a completely different card then. Let me pull up Abuela's Awakening.
Yeah, it's I don't even know how to. I mean, I have it in front of me, but it's not something that's like super quick to explain. It's return an artifact or non-aura from your graveyard to the battlefield with X additional 1/1 counters, and then it becomes a 1/1 flying spirit in addition to its other types.
Gotcha. Okay, and then I might be thinking of like a an older card that brings enchantments back for 4 mana
Starfield of Nyx?
and
No, that's
mix it up with refurbish.
but
So I'm like, nope. So my brain is like I said, it came as a surprise for me to even get banned, but I can see it because the Omni deck. Like if you banned Omniscience, I mean they killed the deck. So if you can't build, if they want you to play Omniscience, but they want to make it harder for you to do it, this is the best way to go about it.
yeah, I agree. I mean, Omniscience, busted card. It's not something that you should be able to put into play basically for 4 mana. Like it's not the idea of the card at all. Landon, I'll let you have the
Cool.
floor next. Your
And
thoughts?
and the fact
Oh,
for standard, it's like standard's supposed to be slower, so they don't want you to win on turn 5 or turn 4.
yeah, for sure. Landon, your thoughts on Abuela's Awakening ban?
I don't really love the ban, honestly. I don't know. I definitely think that if they just banned, if the ban announcement came up and they're like, they just said Abuela's Awakening is banned and that was the only card, we'd all be like, what? It's not like the deck is doing anything obscene in the format right now, but in the context of all the other bans that just dropped, they're clearly, everyone is referring to this ban announcement as nuking the format. That's kind of what it feels like they're trying to do, trying to knock all the top decks down a peg right before rotation and just enable some more of the tier 2 decks to kind of come up into the limelight. I mean, the problem with reanimating an Omniscient as opposed to something else is that, as cool and as classic of a card as Omniscience is, and how much, even though I really like seeing Omniscience in play just for a coolness factor, the fact that you can just cast another one immediately after, like, before your opponent has a chance to respond. Like you can return your Omniscience to the field as a 1/1 flyer and then just cast an Omniscience before your opponent can even remove your your Omniscience. So I don't know, there's something there that was just kind of feels bad. I think combo decks like that are really, really cool to be in standard. Like, turn 4, turn 5 combo decks with a little bit of setup, I think are really healthy and really cool. So I don't know. I think it would have been fine if they kept it in the format. I think it's really easy to kind of hate on that deck to some degree, but then again, I don't know that I necessarily play decks that Omniscience preys on traditionally. So maybe someone else has more of a perspective on that from playing against Omniscience.
Yeah, Ryan, I'll let you go ahead and have the floor. Your thoughts on Abuela's Awakening ban?
I feel like, so for the first 3 cards we talked about, like, I think most of us are pretty on board. We get it. For the rest of these, to me, it feels like the 3 red cards sat down at a table and were like, can we sit here? And these cards were like, sure, yeah, you can sit here. And then Watsy came in and just murdered everybody at the table. Like, I don't know that they did anything wrong.
Threw him straight out the window.
Yeah, just like all of you, like, guilt by association, get the hell out of here. So yeah, obviously turn 4 Omniscience is really good. Like, that's a thing you want to be doing. And I guess their concern is if the format slows significantly, that's too good. But honestly, I don't know that the format is gonna slow so much that that's really something that needed a ban. Like, there are other ways to deal with that than just killing them before turn 4.
Yeah, I mean, You're right. I mean, I think a lot of us are going to have at least pretty similar opinions when it comes to this deck. But yeah, Hunter, the floor is yours. What do you think about this ban?
Yeah, the Awakening also came as quite the surprise because, like, in all honesty, there is a lot of good graveyard hate in Standard right now. And I can understand where WotC is coming from in a sense of like, oh, well, we need to make sure that like this deck isn't going to become like the next busted thing, or maybe the deck got too many frowny faces on Arena when people lost to it or something along those lines. So they were like, oh, well, we got to ban this to make the player base happy, whatever it may be. I think that with the way the format is, at least in the current state, with all the other bannings now, that there's still a lot of removal in the format in every capacity. So, like, you definitely could have gotten away with keeping Awakening. I do agree with Landon. Like, you almost have to have at least 1 to 2, like, decent to good, like, turn 4 to turn 6 combo decks to, like, make sure the format stays a little bit healthier. Like, it's weird to say that in the context of how other combo decks worked and how they affected formats in the past. But, like, you look at Pioneer, like, Lotus Field combo is always there. It's always there. It hasn't caught a ban from anything along those lines. And it's one of those cards that makes you have an answer for it, like, in the main deck, essentially. So it kind of, like, checks your deck for being viable against the entire field. So I can understand where they're coming from with banning it, but I don't really think that it was a needed ban in the sense of, like, the way all the other cards that got banned needed to get banned.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, my quick opinion on this, I think, kind of like what Landon touched on. I believe it was Landon, either Landon or Ryan. I think it was a safe bet. I mean, like, I think the last thing Wizards of the Coast really wanted was to, like, hey, we're gonna ban the bounce deck, or we're gonna nerf the pixie deck, we're gonna ban the red decks, and we're gonna ban Cutter, and then we'll get rid of Beanstalk. And I think the thing that they were worried about was this potentially being the next best deck, because if, like, you tune into your next Pro Tour and it's literally just Omniscience combo decks, I think that just looks really bad. And I think with their yearly standard approach of, like, we're only going to ban standard cards like once a year, they call it, what do they call it, early rotation. We're going to do our early rotation once a year. And, like, we want to take a safer approach, just like, hey, like, we're going to make sure that this isn't a problem in the future, so we're just going to ban it now. Abuela's Awakening, it was not really the issue. It could have been an uncommon that just said return an enchantment from your graveyard to the battlefield. Like, you don't even really want to make this a creature for the most part. It makes it more susceptible to removal. But it was really Omniscience's fault, in a way. Like, you put it in Foundations too, so it's legal for 5 years. And I think banning a card in Foundations sets a really bad precedent of, like, hey, these cards are legal for 5 years. Oh, except that one. Like, one of the best cards to open in booster packs. Yeah, that one's not legal, though. But hey, it's legal in Standard for 5 years, except that one. I think that just sets a bad precedent, and it makes Wizards look bad, which, I mean, they're pretty good at making themselves look bad a lot of the time. Not that this is a Wizards of the Coast slander episode. But yeah, Abuela's Awakening, I think it was a safe approach. It was the safe thing to do. And I think we largely agree with that. In terms of whether or not we agree with the actual ban, we can understand, like, they banned it because they wanted to play it safe. So yeah, I guess whatever. Like, Omniscience is a good card when you cheat it into play on turn 4. Who would have guessed? Probably everybody. If Omniscience costs 3 and a white, yeah, like, who wouldn't play that card? So, all right, I think we kind of covered this one pretty good. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. So the next card is Up the Beanstalk, a card that...
Okay, but...
Oh, sorry, did you have something to add with the Abuela's Awakening?
Yeah. One last thing. I did some R&D. I was thinking of the card Replenish. It's from old set, from Extended, and you just replenish back it's the white enchantment that removes creatures, and then you stack the triggers and then remove it from combat.
Parallax Wave.
Parallax Wave. That's what it was. Yeah, it's that common Replenish Parallax Wave from Extended. Yeah, I got that mixed up with the with this one.
Oh,
Parallax
sure.
That card, man.
Yeah, Replenish, thank God it's not legal in any of these new formats.
Yeah, such a fun deck, but yeah, so my brain went to old cards.
No, you're good. All right, yeah. So up the beanstalk. Honestly, since you were talking, Ray, like this is a card that you said that you've played a lot. I know Ryan's played a little bit of this in Pioneer as well. It's a card that I don't think. I'm glad they banned it because it wasn't at the forefront of the format, at least in the last few months. But let's be honest, if they would have left this on the, if they would have left this in standard, it would have just been a huge problem, and everyone would have wanted it to be banned, and then it would have just been a whole mess. So I'm glad that they did make this ban. But Ray, your thoughts on the Up the Beanstalk ban? A lot of people figured it was going to get banned, and it eventually did. So yeah, what are your thoughts?
I think it needed to happen. With the overlords being able to draw you a card and get the other effects, it's absurd. Plus we have the green black like mill strategy and mill yourself strategy deck is the one that I like to play. And I was playing it with the blue splash so I could bounce the it's the black creature that costs less when it enters, makes your opponent discard a card. And I'd bounce that
Hollow
with
Marauder?
anything, either pixie, huh?
Is it Hollow Marauder?
Yes. It's like the 7-mana 4/4 flyer.
Oh yeah.
It's already got good stats if you can cheat it into play. And then it makes your opponent discard a card. And then if you draw a card off beans, it was my favorite interaction to just bounce that with like a pixie and then play it again, get 2 cards out of their hand, draw 2 cards.
Can I pause real quick?
Do it up.
Did not big enough or whatever it is, one of the other cards that got banned, did that trigger beans even if you spent 2 mana on it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that is disgusting.
Yes. I played a couple of copies of This Town because I wanted to have my opponent have no cards in hand at all times.
Well,
they had to have a draw step, but I would draw off beans, make them discard cards, draw my cards, and then I just bounce them and keep doing it over and over again.
I don't think I like you.
I know at least with Up the Beanstalk, the only deck I really know that played those together for a while was that Simic Terror deck. They played Eddie Merc Crab, Tolarian Terror, and then they played Up the Beanstalk in This Town Ain't Big Enough. I know that was like a really good combination of spells that they were playing in that deck. But that was kind of like a Bloomburrow deck. It really kind of fell out of favor pretty quick. But yeah, Hunter, your thoughts on the Up the Beanstalk ban?
It needed to go. Like with all the other cards that, like, so people tend to forget that Up the Beanstalk was format warping, and it caused like a Pro Tour season and a half for Standard to literally just be you either play beans or you play main deck enchantment removal dot deck, and that was a disgusting format to play against. Beans needed to go.
Deck?
Yeah, like you either played Domain or you played main deck enchantment removal dot deck in order to beat Domain, and it was just not good. And I know like other decks came and pushed it out of the format and blah 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 blah. But with all the other cards that got banned, Beans almost assuredly has to go because they still kept all the overlords. They still have Zur. I'm sure they like is Leyline Binding. I think is still in standard right now. So like.
Yep.
They still have all the pieces, and the card that made that deck so consistent and so annoying to play against was Beans, because it was a 2-mana spell that said this card replaces itself and every other spell you cast this game draws you a card. Yep. And it was too good for its mana cost. When every spell other than maybe like 2 slots in your 75 don't trigger Beans, like Beans has to go. It was basically like what Rogue Refiner was to Teamer Energy back in the day.
I foiled out my energy deck back in the day, the standard energy.
Fucking
I still have all the cards.
You can still play in Pioneer. It's not good, but that was. This is a small tangent.
I have to go. I have it built in Pioneer. Don't worry.
I remember.
It's already done.
I remember when Pioneer first started, and a lot of the players that I played with at the time were like, "Wait, I can play Energy in Pioneer." I'm like, "Sure you can." They showed up that first week and just got stomped by just all the like cards that were already legal in the format, from older sets. They're like, "Huh, yep. Wow." Man, these other cards are really good. I'm like, yeah, like Energy's good, but like even if you do somehow put it in Ulamog, like okay, like untap, I'm playing a red deck, you're still dead. So, but anyways, yeah, Up the Beanstalk, cards nuts. Ryan, the floor is yours. Your thoughts on Up the Beanstalk being banned?
Don't like it.
Boo.
Honestly, I feel
Hot
like
take alert.
yeah, I know it's always me. So like, okay,
Boo this man.
here's what I would have done. I would have banned Zur,
Ooh.
or I would have banned one of the overlords. But really, like, this card is just dying for the sins of them printing all these stupid overlords. And they knew
agree.
Beanstalk was in the format. They should have designed Impending so it's not cast. And then Beanstalk would have been totally fine. It would have been a cool deck. You have to, like, build your deck around it. The overlords just make it way too easy. And so I get it, but I hate it. And I wish they had just designed overlords more like Suspend or something, where it's not a cast, it's like an activated ability, and then it's not a problem.
Yeah, I feel like it's a tricky line to have because, like, if you make it not a cast, then, like, counter spells wouldn't even be able to, like, the overloads would have been uncounterable. So, yeah, it was like one of those things where they just happen to get caught in the crossfires.
Yeah,
but we also have Tidebinder.
We do have Tidebinder. But who plays that card? Which, actually, we'll talk about a deck that's definitely going to play that card in a bit. But, yeah, I don't know. Like, Zur, honestly, at the end of that Pro Tour, it definitely was Beans or Zur for sure. And I know one thing they said, at least with Up the Beanstalk, was they're also banning it to potentially, like, so they don't have to limit themselves with future development of 5+ drops in standard. So at least I can understand that. Like, the design space, you know, you'd be limited way more on Up the Beanstalk than you would, like, Zur, which is rotating in a month technically. But
but the limitation is just don't print 5 drops that you can cast for 2 mana. Like,
Accurate.
I don't understand what you're saying.
That is very accurate.
I know you don't understand, and Wizards doesn't understand, but it's not that complicated. Like, stop printing cards that are 5 mana and say this card costs 3 less to cast. This town and what's the exile spell? Ride's End both do that. It's like, just stop doing that.
God.
So
I forgot about Ride's End, yeah.
So what you're telling me is we need to make more evoke cards?
Yes, obviously.
Not telling you that, because that's why it got banned in Modern.
Gavin Verhey's listening. So you're telling me we need to print
free
more
spells.
5 drops as a cost reduction?
Yeah, I'm telling you, just put Force of Will in Standard.
My last
I disagree. I disagree with the whole, like, just stop printing like 5 mana cards that you can cast for less. Because I don't. If I was a Magic designer and I was designing cards, I would hate Up the Beanstalk so much, just because I feel like it's so, like, you're just limiting yourself by, you know, this card existing. Like, there's a lot of cool things you can do by making cards with high mana values cost less. I mean, there's other ways to do the effect you want, but at the same time, like, the most straightforward way to design a card sometimes is the best way. And if you're being stopped from doing that because this other card got printed, I can see them being upset about that. And also, Up the Beanstalk had other problems with just, like, if the card didn't replace itself immediately, it would be cool and fine. It just already had its own other problems as well. So I get the ban.
It just irks me when Wizards, like, bans a card to make up for their own lack of design foresight. It's like, we fucked up limiting our design space, so now we're going to ban this card so we can make more cards. It's like, okay, then why'd
you do that all the time?
I know they do. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, so my thoughts on Up the Beanstalk, like, I'm glad they banned it, kind of like Abuela's Awakening. Like, they didn't want to mess anything up if they're only going to do it for the yearly bans. My only story I'll say with this is it's not technically for standard. I guess this is more of a Pioneer story. But you know Up the Beanstalk is good when people are like, man, I wish Night Pack Ambusher was like 5 mana but costs 1 less if it's on an opponent's turn. Like, you know a spell or a card is really good when people wish
should not
that...
be spoken.
What was that?
Dude, you know Up the Beanstalk is good when I bought 4 copies of Barry in books?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
What?
Just to try and trigger it.
Oh, God.
Do you remember that week I played Yavimaya Sojourner just to trigger it?
Yeah, I was triggered.
Like, I'll jump through some hoops for an up the beanstalk. They just made it a little too easy.
Don't even get me started on leyline binding Beanstalk. Oh God, you
So
blow
do
me
you
out.
guys
Thank God it's
think-
rotating.
Yeah,
So do you guys think Beanstalk would be less busted if they made it 6 or more mana, or would that make the card unplayable completely?
I think you would. I mean, the overlords, at least one of them 7, and I
The
mean,
white
you'll
one,
find
I believe.
you'll find a way to
It's
break
the
it.
white one.
it would still be. It'd probably still be bannable. It depends on the ride, like what's it, the ride's end or whatever. It depends. Like if there's 6 and then they have the cost reduction, still beans would still be good. But if that wasn't the case, I don't think it would be that crazy, because you got to think Fury was really good with it in modern, and like Solitude is 5, so like theoretically 6 it might not have been that busted. But still the card it's crazy. It really had to go. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the next one here. So the next set of cards, although they kind of saw play in some different decks, realistically they're kind of together, and that is This Town Ain't Big Enough and Hopeless Nightmare. I know that not all the decks, like, they weren't all Esper Pixies. Some of them were like Abzan Pixies and Black White Pixies, and This Town Ain't Big Enough, it saw play in like the Simic Crab decks, and it really just depended on the deck. But a lot of the time they are featured in the same deck because you just get so much value. You get a Disperse that also like gets you an extra card and gets you more extra value. I guess like with these cards, I'm happy that they got banned. In the sense that Hopeless Nightmare, like, the format's weird when everyone's packing 4 Wiltleaf Liege in their sideboard just to like gotcha with the Hopeless Nightmare deck. It's just weird.
Or Obstinate Bailoff.
Yeah, or Obstinate Bailiff, or both if you're mono green. I saw mono green decks actually doing that in the format at the time.
I played a little bit of Frogs, and I had 4 in the sideboard of Frogs.
When I was playing Boros Mice, I am very, very guilty of doing that. I played Boros Mice for a while when the bounce deck was big, and I put 4 Bailoff in the sideboard.
Ew.
Got him.
Dude, but when you hit him with it on turn 1, you feel so good.
So good. It's like, oh yeah, here's my 4/4, gain 4, your go.
I
Oh,
definitely
wait, I go.
playing dinosaurs in standard. That happened a few times in post board where they go Hopeless Nightmare turn 1 and I put in a Bailoff, and then we go to game 3.
Yeah.
It's so good. So good.
That's definitely happened quite a few times. But yeah, Hunter, I'm gonna have you start. Your thoughts on these bans?
So me personally, I think you could have gotten away with just banning one or the other. Honestly, I think Hopeless Nightmare was the problematic card out of all of them. This Town Ain't Big Enough, honestly, the way the card was designed, in my opinion, it offered a lot of design space for you to build decks with. But the card, like Hopeless Nightmare, was so efficient at what it did, and it wasn't so much as the discarding a card, because there's duresses in the format, all this other kind of stuff. You've got like Thoughtseize in other formats and things along those lines. I think it was the Drain 2 that mattered the most for that deck, because it wasn't that it was just like, oh, I'm going to make you discard your hand. It was, oh, I'm making you discard your hand, and I am putting you on a clock by how much I can repeat bouncing this to my hand and making it drain you for 2. So I think that the Hopeless Nightmare was a correct ban. I think This Town Ain't Big Enough could have been fine for the format to stay. Like I said, there's a lot of good design space that comes with This Town Ain't Big Enough, whereas Hopeless Nightmare didn't really have a lot of design space to do other than having like the bounce deck behind it. And I think it was just it was too efficient for a 1-mana spell to drain you for 2 and get rid of a card with a deck like Bounce running around. Like, also one of those, like, not key pieces for the deck, but it's a card that was really, really good for the deck. So it's not going to kill the deck completely, in my opinion, but it's definitely going to drop it from tier 1 to like tier 2, maybe even 1.5.
Yeah, no, I feel like that's pretty fair. Ryan, your thoughts on it?
So you totally had Hopeless Nightmare as the top card for Wilds of Eldraine, right?
I did not.
He did. His card looks so bad on paper. Like, and not that like it's that bad, but like nobody thought this card was gonna be like anywhere near good in constructed. I think it's a good something had to go from the self bounce deck. These are fine choices. I think we could spend some time debating like should it have been Pixie? Should it have been this town? Should it, whatever? Should Storm Chaser's talent have been on the ban list? They could have gone a lot of different ways, but I'm glad they did something to that deck because it was just really obnoxious.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the deck was a little bit too much. Landon, your thoughts on the bans?
Yeah, I think when I think through the Pixie deck, you have to pick something to ban from the Pixie deck. It's obviously gonna, it's a major pillar of the format otherwise. So you think about what makes playing against the Pixie deck unfun, and I think everyone's first answer would be, not having cards in your hand and taking 2 damage and then being beat down by a 1 mana 2/2 return. And so Hopeless Nightmare, I mean, everyone hates being thought seized, and it's a similar feeling when you're having to discard 2 cards and lose 4 life when your opponent played, their 2 1 mana cards from their hand. And so I think that really makes sense as the ban to me. If you ban like one of the bouncers, there's a bunch more bouncers that you can play. The problem card is the thing that you're bouncing and casting over and over again. I think the other unfun thing from like the Esper versions of the deck was the whole Storm Chaser's talent loop with this town ain't big enough, where you can just like do that over and over and over again and just make so much value out of these 2 cards. I think that was really a problem, and I think banning Storm Chaser's talent just didn't really make that much sense because that wasn't really a major part of the problem. You knock out more birds with the stone if you ban this town, and I think this town really was supposed to be more like a runaway together kind of thing. I don't know if you're familiar with that card. They printed it in Foundations again, but
Yes.
Return 2 creatures controlled by different players to their owner's hand, and they want. I'm assuming they wanted to print a card like that, except it's a little more versatile because you can, if you want to pay 5 mana, you can bounce 2 of their things. But there's cards like Hopeless Nightmare where you're wanting to bounce your stuff so much, and like bouncing your stuff also removes more of your opponent's stuff for 1 mana, and you can be doing that immediately on turn 2. It's just, I think both of them are a problem. The Pixie deck would be a problem after the bans if they didn't remove both of those cards, in my opinion.
For sure. Ray, your thoughts on the ban?
So we'll start with the this town ain't big enough. I think the card this town ain't big enough was a correct ban. I think it needed to go. It now you could argue that you could either do that or Pixie. I kind of wanted to see the Pixie gone over this town ain't big enough as a bounce effect, because you're kind of tunneling the deck into going away from white and going straight back into like a mid-range black-blue deck. The Hopeless Nightmare, I think they banned it. I think it was correct. The 2 life is a very big problem. And no one gives 2 life, and they're like, oh, it's just 2 life. But I was like, yeah, but when you do it 3 or 4 times, you're dead. So I like that one. I've already seen people just swap it out for Tiny Bones Joins Up, which is, it makes them discard a card, but then it only makes them lose life if you play legendaries. So I was like, well, it's kind of like a worse Hopeless Nightmare. So, but I can see, I would wanted the Pixie to be gone instead of and this town ain't big enough. But I think this town also should have been banned because it does trigger beans. It does do bouncing the 2 things, 5 mana, 3 mana, getting your own thing. But it is more cost effective to play Pixie to bounce things than it is the spell, the this town ain't big enough. Because it's 2 mana versus the 3 or the 2 or 5. So I'm like, well, it like sort of balances out, but I wanted the Pixie gone so they would probably step away from white and like pigeonhole the deck to make it more mid-range and fair.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've just got two closing thoughts. So one, I feel like it was Ray, you mentioned it. So the thing is with Hopeless Nightmare is it's not the first time or even the second time. It's when it's the third, the fourth, even the fifth time that it's cast. You just don't have a hand. You lose all your resources. You're way down on life. Your opponent's got a couple of cheap flyers that's getting in there and really doesn't need to hit you that many times before you're dead. I think Hopeless Nightmare is a great design card. I just think all the recent cards that allow you to bounce it back to your hand and cards like Scroll Shift, I think is what made it too good. This town ain't big enough. I can't confirm this because it's very subjective, but this might be the card name with kind of like the dumbest / non-magic name to ever be banned. Like all the gimmick names that they've ever done for these recent hat sets have never had a name this long or ever really have been good. If I'm being honest, I mean, I can't think of any card off the top of my head, but like this town ain't big enough. Like it was just kind of like a meme, like ha ha ha, like 2 permanents, whatever, and then
if it doesn't have like an actual name, it's just like, well, it's not going to be that long.
Our research team showed that players really like creatures with very long names, so we made this card with the longest name ever, Elemental.
And in many formats.
Literally, so
That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, dude, that card is banned in so many formats. It's so good.
So
Other
okay,
than overboarded cards, yes.
it has infinite power.
Yeah.
Infinite power. It's so good.
all right. Well, let's go ahead and head to. I believe we got one more here. I'm pretty sure that we haven't talked about. I'm honestly forgetting. Maybe this was everything. No, we've got one more card that I want to talk about, and this card is not banned in Standard, but it is currently being, quote, watched. I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but in the weekly MTG stream that happened the next day, so the Tuesday after the bans, I believe it was Emma, or I always forget her name, Klumperen's last name. I think maybe it was Emma Klumperen's. I forget the name. What was that, sorry? Carmen Complierans, thank you. Talked about that they're watching stock up and even mentioned that they wouldn't be surprised if this card was banned next year during the early Standard rotation season. So the card, it's extremely efficient. Ryan, I was right, you were wrong. I knew this card was going to be good. I'm the second place winner of this podcast. But yeah, like stock up, it's just super efficient. Turns out, instead of just divination, if you get to pick the best two, like it seems pretty good. I don't know, and it's also not draw, so it's good against like I guess like cards like Razorkin Needlehead and Shieldred don't hurt you when you play a card like Stock Up. I guess what are your guys' thoughts with Stock Up in general? Like, would you be surprised if the card was banned next time around? Do you think it has a chance of maybe even getting banned earlier than next year's early rotation? I guess Ryan, what are your thoughts?
I strongly suspected it was going to get banned this time. And I don't know. The thing about it is, like, when they do these speculative bans, like we're banning these cards because we think they're going to be good once we ban the actual problems. Like, how was Stock Up not on that list? Because it's great in Is It Prowess. It's great in the blue-white decks. And when you slow the format down by banning the 2 best 1-mana red cards in the format, Stock Up stock, for lack of a better term, just goes up. Like it's so much better the slower the format is. Like when you have time to leverage that card selection and card advantage, it's just so good. And even if the format slows down by like a turn or two, like Vivi Stock Up sounds fantastic.
Oh, dude.
Ew.
Oh man.
Yeah, so I think it should have gone, and I wouldn't be surprised if it goes sometime in the next year.
I totally agree.
Yeah, Landon, I know you said you agree. Do you have any other thoughts with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm about as anti-control as it gets. I just don't like control. I just don't like playing against control decks. So maybe I'm extremely biased actually, but I hate Stock Up. So I hope it gets banned because I don't want to see my opponents cast it anymore. But that's it's me.
Nah, skill issue, man. No, I'm just kidding. So, yeah, Ray, your thoughts on Stock Up?
Oh, baby. So Stock Up, I knew this card was going to be so good because I used to cast Divination in control decks just because I wanted the extra card, and it was always like my ninth card draw is always divination. And then I'm gonna compare stock up to dig through time. If dig through time was banned, why wouldn't this card be banned? And I'm glad it's not, so I can toy around with it some more. But I I thought it was going to hit the hammer as well. I thought it was going to get the hammer. So I splashed it in my the blue black bounce deck with beans. Uh, it wasn't good. I played two of, and the card was just absolute nuts every time I found it. We got past turn 5, and then it's like, oh, I'm just gonna. It's literally like dig through time, but sorcery speed. And then I got 6 mana. I'm gonna stock up. Oh, cool! I got these two, the best cards in my top 5. I was like, I like how they what was the other one? It was like Drawn Through Dreams. It's like 4 mana, top 7 get 2,
Yeah. Yep.
and it it didn't. I thought that they were going, or I think they thought it was going to be super good. It was super good, but it just for 4 mana, it wasn't where people wanted to be. This being at 3 mana is just spot on, pretty much perfect. And I think in any mid-range meta or control meta, this card is going to skyrocket to be the most hated card in Standard.
I am a big Drawn from Dreams guy. When I used to play a lot of Commander a few years ago, I always had it in my blue decks, and I was like, dude, this card's so good. And when I saw stock up, I'm like, dude, this is just better Drawn from Dreams. Like, what?
Yep. Like I said, I tried to play Drawn from Dreams, and it didn't feel good. When I play stock up, this thing feels so good.
The card's nuts,
Like
especially
I
when
said,
you
I
play
was
with
playing
Goblin
a beans
Electromancer.
deck. So, yeah, I splashed it in a beans strategy where I was drawing extra cards from all my creatures just so I could have selection. And it was just great every time, every single time.
Yeah, the card is nuts. Hunter, the floor is yours. Your thoughts on stock up not being banned?
Oh, it should have been the 8th or ninth card, whatever, that should have been banned. Um, I remember a time, and I still play in those times in a few formats where Memory Deluge, like, I understand that Memory Deluge did an instant, don't get me wrong, but, like, Memory Deluge is, like, the best, and I mean the best card draw spell for slow mid-range to control style blue decks in older formats, and it was the best card draw spell in standard for those styles of decks. And stock up is just better Memory Deluge. You're paying 3 mana to see 5 cards and you get the 2 best out of them still. Um I played a lot, and I mean a ridiculous amount of Is It Prowess in Standard, and I have not once ever been upset about casting a stock up at any point in the game. Hell, there were some games where I played where I went turn 2 Steel Cutter. My opponent goes land, play a stupid 2 mana 2/2 that does nothing for the board state, pass. And I like draw stock up, and I'm like, man, land, stock up, get the 2 best cards out of my top 5, untap on turn 4, win the game. Like, and in the later portions of the game, like, stock up is one of those cards where it's like, it's a never ever a dead card. And honestly, later in the game, the card only gets better because when you're trading resources with your opponent, you're casting a 3 mana spell that digs far enough for you to find an answer, find your kill spell, find your removal spell for whatever you need. And at 3 mana, it's so good. It's so good. Like, I was very, very high on the card when I first saw it printed. And I was like, that card might be something. And then, like, every blue deck under the sun in Standard and almost in Pioneer started playing it. And I was like, yeah, this card's going to be a problem in every facet.
I think the card's nuts, just in general. Like you mentioned, like late game, if I'm in a top deck war and my opponent casts a stock up, I might as well just scoop it up. Like,
Game's over.
I mean,
the game is over.
Oh, so you just got the best 2 cards of your 5, like the best 2 of the top 5. Okay, well, I'm probably dead. Like, it's so good.
It's a problem. It's a problem when your fastest aggro deck in the format and your slowest control deck in the format is playing the same card to refill their hand, there's something wrong with that card.
Yeah.
That's fair point.
Yep, fair.
Yeah, card is nuts. Wouldn't be surprised if this card does get banned at standard at some point, but who knows? Edge of Eternities seems like there's gonna be some really, really strong cards. So we'll kind of see what happens with that. So I want to say that was the only thing that I had to mention, at least with standard. So we're gonna go ahead and shift to Pioneer here. So Pioneer, there were no changes with Pioneer, but I really think there should be. So you guys can't see it, but I do have the top 10 decks in the metagame currently posted for the Pioneer meta. So, Mono Red Aggro is the number one played deck with 26.8% of the metagame. 26.8%. That's kind of wild. Also, special shout out to Gruul Prowess, which is almost the same thing. It's a Corey Steelcutter deck that's also 3.8% of the metagame. Plays Emberheart Challenger, a lot of the same cards, but it's slightly different. So for lack of just explaining it, we'll just say 30% of the meta is red aggro. So you're seeing the rest of the metagame is fine. We've got Izzet Phoenix, Mono Black, Hidden Strings, Grease Fang, which, shout out to Ralphie, one of the channel members, said that what I'm also hinting at is Pioneer needed a ban if it wasn't already implied. Grease Fang dropped a color because the metagame is so aggressive right now. They don't even want to take extra damage from their lands. They just want to go 2-color. Like, that's where the metagame's at, just in general, which is crazy to think about. It's always been Abs and Grease Fang for years, but they don't want to take damage from all their shock lands. They're not even playing Thoughtseize really in the main. Most of the decks are playing Thoughtseize in the sideboard, which is kind of nuts. But I really want to talk about the Mono Red Aggro deck, and I'm really frustrated because, and this isn't an exact quote. This is from the Star City Games article detailing the weekly MTG stream. I believe this one was written by Nick Miller. So this is from the article, and again, this isn't an exact quote, but I did go back and watch the live stream, and this is correct information. So it says Carmen Clemparents tackled all the questions regarding non-rotating formats. She is aware of the concerns players have with the mice package in Pioneer, but she reiterated many times that Pioneer is the place for players to enjoy their cards from Standard that no longer have a home. She said play design will keep an eye on the aggressive red decks and Izzet Phoenix, which benefited from the printing of Corey's Steelcutter. Izzet Phoenix also takes advantage of Treasure Cruise and has been a top tier deck for some time. So really, with Izzet Phoenix in this instance, I'm going to give it a pass for right now. Steelcutter is very good in that deck, but it's not really overbearing. I think if that deck does become a problem, I think probably Cruise is maybe the card to ban instead of Steelcutter. But I know that R&D is, they really don't want to ban the card unless they really have to, because like they've said multiple times, Pioneer is the only format you can cast Treasure Cruise, and they kind of want Treasure Cruise to be a thing in Pioneer. So I'm really not even mad about Izzet Phoenix. But one thing I'm really frustrated with is how research and development, or like play design, can look at the Pioneer metagame and honestly say that the format is fine right now. Like, again, red aggro decks being 30% of the metagame. The last Arena Championship that happened was Pioneer, and it was the entire top 8 was basically, I want to say basically, it wasn't full 8 decks. It was like 5, 6, 7 was mono red aggro. Like, that's all people are doing in that format. It's the best thing to be doing. Every deck has to play super early game interaction, kind of like what was going on with Standard. The starts are just way too aggressive. And, like, I understand what they're saying, like, oh, we want Pioneer to be the place where you can play your Standard cards that no longer have a home. These are Standard cards, which I'm mostly talking about Heartfire Hero and Monstrous Rage, cards that were clearly too good for Standard. And honestly, Standard's at the point where a lot of these Standard cards are impacting the Pioneer format. So if all your Standard cards you're making are kind of power creeping out your old Pioneer cards, how can you complain like, oh, well, we want them to still have a home, but if the home is too good in Standard, it's probably too good in Pioneer as well, which has cards like Fatal Push and extra black or early game removal spells. So I know you guys don't play Pioneer a lot anymore. I guess what are your opinions on that specifically? With a 30% play rate of mono red aggro, do you think that a change should be taken? Ryan, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, if it's 30% is too much for Standard, why isn't it too much for Pioneer? Like it's the same thing. It's almost the same deck too. Like it has the same package in it. So like, and I agree with you. It's less so much. Well, I guess it is so much that they feel like this is a healthy metagame because it's not. But it's more the sentimentality of like Pioneer's just standard graveyard. Like this is where standard decks go to die, and we don't really everything the light touches is our kingdom. What's that over there? We don't go there.
We don't go there.
Pioneer. Yeah, we don't play that format. Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of condescending to a format that's actually a really good format when it's well maintained, and something needed to go from that deck. It was the same question, and I don't know how they answered it correctly in the standard context and not in the Pioneer context.
For sure. I think.
Yeah.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
Wizards just, I think they just come across as so out of touch with Pioneer. Like it's honestly insane and infuriating. Like I read the banned and restricted announcement, and when you get to the paragraph on Pioneer, it's so sad. Like we got 5 lines of text here, and they literally do not mention the mono red deck or a single card in the mono red deck. In that whole paragraph, they're like, "Oh, Corey Steelcutter is getting played in Is It Phoenix?" and Terra Magical Adept is getting played in Enigmatic Incarnation.
Oh my god,
what?
that
Like,
pissed me
who
off.
cares?
So,
Why
dude, I got pissed when I
why
saw that.
is there a mono black deck playing 4 gifted Etherborn in their main deck right now at the top of the meta? Why are they playing? It's like these decks should not be built this way. It's warping the format just the same as it is in standard, and it's not even Corey Steelcutter. It's just the cards that have been in the format since Bloomborough. They printed a deck into standard and Pioneer, and it's been problematic since basically day one. 30% of the meta. I think they just don't care about Pioneer. Honestly, I think they don't care about Pioneer right now because there's no major Pioneer events. They're not even bothering to mention the 30% of the meta in their little paragraph in the banned industry. I think they just don't care about Pioneer right now, and maybe there will come a day that they care about it again, but that day is not today.
Yeah, I have to interlude before I go to the next person here with that was something I was talking about the other day where Pioneer's the format. This era of Pioneer currently reminds me of in the middle of the pandemic, so like late 2020, early 2021, where the Lotus Field deck with not through the breach, what card I'm talking about, the 2 Underworld Breach, and when the inverter combo was just running rampant for a year, but there were no events, so they kind of just like let the format suck for a year, and then they're like, oh yeah, Pioneer, let's go ahead and ban some stuff. Like, this is horrible. It kind of reminds me of that, where it's not the competitive format that's currently on the table, so they're just not paying attention. And like you mentioned, like, the fact that they're saying that the format is healthy is just, like, a giant spit in the face, I'll be honest with you. I'm very passionate about Pioneer and the Pioneer format. Like, you're going to sit here and tell me that mono red, you think that format's healthy. Not only, and honestly, my other big issue with it is before mono red really started taking a grasp on the format, every single deck in the format was splashing black for Unholy Annex Ritual Chamber, which I think that card actually could come back in standard when it's all said and done. But I'm really frustrated by the fact that they said it was healthy, and the only time they ever pay attention to this format is when it is the competitive format of choice, which the last time it was the competitive format of choice, they really didn't fix anything until it was too late. They ruined an entire format by letting Sorin and Amalia be legal in the format. So that's a whole nother thing. I think that just in general, since the format's been around in 2019, I think Wizards of the Coast has done a very, very poor job on maintaining the format. And I'm not normally someone that really is just dunks on Wizards of the Coast or anything like that in general, but I think that Pioneer has been poorly managed from the start. Like, it feels like you said, Standard's graveyard. It's like, whatever. Like, they care about Modern because they print stuff directly into Modern, and Standard is Standard. So Modern or Pioneer's like the middle child kind of thing. But like, man, the middle child needs some love too once in a while. I mean, am I right?
Yeah.
Word.
I have something else to say on this too. Like, they said that Pioneer is the playground for the cards that were too good for standard, but I mean, I think you're just like scared to admit that you printed cards that are too good for these formats, right? Like, They're like, no, but it's still okay. You can go play it in Pioneer, but just, I mean, you got to wake up at some point. Just look at the metagame. Just listen to what these players are saying. These cards were not okay. It's not a healthy format. Like, it's okay if if the card just doesn't have a place to live. You know what I mean? It's like that's okay to admit you made a mistake printing a certain package of cards into a certain set of formats.
I mean, like you said, if they're worried about cards not existing have a place to live, I mean, let's look at like 75-80% of the modern card pool. But I mean,
Exactly.
I mean, you're printing all these new sets that are overtaking the format, and you're doing the same thing in Pioneer. So, I mean, if that's, I mean, so anyways, Ray, I'll let you go ahead and take the floor on this. Your thought on Pioneer just as a format.
A Pioneer as a format? I like the format, but it feels more of like a casual format than a competitive format. Because like, if you want to win, you play red. If you just want to play it, you play whatever you want. Like I said, I play Pioneer, but I have red, and it's literally the same deck I played in Standard. And then I have the Pioneer decks, which are the ones that I have fun with. Energy or what was the other deck that I had? Whatever. I didn't pick it up for a while, so it must not be that
I'll say,
important.
must not have been that good if you can't remember what it is.
Yeah, I was like, I always just grab energy because it's my most fun thing to do. So I was like,
so
the sideboard plan is literally just the 8 Emrakul or the Ulamogs, the Emrakuls, and the artifact. So it's like, well, there's that sideboard plan, and then there's the normal sideboard plan with like Glory Bringers and like being on the play. You have like a 70% win rate on the play.
right. I think honestly, I wish I would have pulled the deck up. From my understanding, I think the only non-standard card that the mono red deck actually really plays in Pioneer, I've seen a lot of lists play Titan Strength. I legitimately think that that's the only card that deck doesn't play that's not in standard, or that does play that's not standard.
Yeah, Titan Strength is very good with any of the mouse or the Cacophony scamps.
Yeah, and I legitimately think that's the only thing that's not legal in standard that deck plays.
It's Kumano, I think, is the main one. Kumano faces Kakazan.
Oh, Kumano.
Yep.
And like one or two, and that's it.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah,
I didn't think they played the Kunama when they went to the mice. I didn't think they played Kunama with the mice, but they could have.
The list I'm looking at least still does, but like it's 95% standard cards. Like if you showed up with the standard deck, it would be indistinguishable.
Yeah, you'd be like, you walk up with a standard deck and you're like, cool, I'll win half my matches and then go home happy.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, these cards just got banned, but then you're still like going to an FNM and going, cool, just by sitting down, I won half my matches just because I'm playing the best deck. Sometimes people don't want to play against that. And it's like
this deck is too good for standard. People are tired of playing against it. Oh, it's 30% of Pioneer. People aren't tired of playing against it there yet.
Yeah, and it's like, well, a lot of people skip over Pioneer too because they're like, oh, here's standard, but then they're tired of playing standard cards, so they want to play it in Pioneer, and then they're like, oh, it's all red, so then they're like, well, I guess I'll go into Modern, and then they end up spending more money, and then back to Wizards of the Coast, they're like, we're getting money anyway, so why would we change it?
Those people always turn around to be like, man, 60-card formats suck. I'm just gonna play Commander.
Yeah,
that's part of the problem.
A format where red's bad.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
A format where red's bad, man. Maybe Commander ain't that bad. All right. So speaking of red, Hunter, I believe you're the only person that we didn't go to with this. So yeah, your thoughts on the lack of Pioneer changes?
Oh man, yeah. Speaking of red, indeed. So I have taken a very specific mono red deck that has once been featured on the channel to a 401 finish, as we decided to call it, in a comp tournament down in Columbus. And when I was building these red decks in these capacities, like, I always started with, all right, I'm building a red deck for Pioneer. What do I need? And I would always start with, well, obviously we need 4 Soulscar Mage and 4 Monastery Swiftpeer. Like that's the fucking deck. Like that's 80% of the deck right there. And to sit here and look at a mono red aggro deck that is the top percentage in Pioneer and it not have a single copy of either of those cards breaks my heart, but it also shows how powerful those standard cards and specifically the mice package was in just a whole, not just only in standard. Because when you're moving away from what a Pioneer red deck used to really be, like it wasn't like a slow buildup of damage, or I go Heartfire Hero, Mouse, Monstrous Rage, you're dead. Like it was a couple more. It was more like a prowessy, bursty kind of scheme, or you were playing cards like Robber of the Rich, Annex, Bone Crusher Giants, like cards like that. So the fact that they're not playing like any of those cards that like Kumano is the only card that I see in this list that I actively play in my version of a Pioneer mono red deck, other than like the land and the sideboard. And even then, like the sideboard, there's 8 slots. No, 11 slots of the sideboard that are all standard cards, quote unquote. So like you're just copy and pasting the red deck from standard into Pioneer with a better quote unquote mana base with Mutavaults and Ramanamp Ruins. And then like you say it's too good for standard, but it's dominating Pioneer and it's not too good for that. Like where like make it make sense somewhere in some facet,
Yeah, I mean,
I have one more thing to add on this that's really funny before we move on.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. I saw. You'll never believe what card this mono red deck that top 8 of the challenge a couple days ago is playing as a mirror breaker. 2 Shadow Spear in the main deck.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Not even joking. Top
Dude,
8
that
of
is
the Pioneer Challenge 2 days
insane.
ago. It triggers
So if
Valiant, and it's a mirror breaker, and it's a legendary equipment. And they're
When
playing
Oh my
Heartfire,
God.
wait, pause. When Heartfire Hero dies with Shadow Spear equipped to it, do you gain the
Yes.
life from the dam? Oh my
Yeah.
god! Oh,
Yeah.
dude! Oh
It looks
man,
back in time. Yeah.
I need to build a couple of decks.
You need to throw a couple Shadow Spears in the decks you already have.
I mean, yeah. Well, like, cause now I'm thinking like we could play like the Heartfire Hero package, we could play Rakdos, and we could play Claim to Fame and Calisel Sword and a couple of the Shadow Spears in the main. It's just fucking. That sounds disgustingly
problem.
fun.
Yeah.
That sounds like
Sounds like you're
like
gonna
fun.
be turn 3 people.
I'm
Shadow
gonna
Spears
try.
like that.
That's sick
Sounds
tech,
fun,
dude.
but
That
it
is
sounds like a
sick
not
tech.
okay format. It sounds like a not
No,
okay format. to
no,
me.
not okay
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like, Heartfire Hero is a problem. Like, Monstrous Rage is obviously still a problem. Like, the whole entire mouse package at this point has just been a problem. Like, we're playing cards in a quote unquote like semi-eternal format that came out what, a year and a half, 2 years ago at this point. Like, this is disgusting.
Dude, time flies. Pioneer's been around for almost 6 years.
Ugh, God. I turned 26 on Monday.
Jeez.
I was playing Pioneer at 20 years old. That's gross.
Yeah, and like my closing thoughts with Pioneer is like, again, I'm very passionate to the format, and when you see people that get paid a lot of money by Wizards of the Coast to like have really bad opinions on a format they probably don't play is very frustrating and disappointing, I guess, for lack of better terms. It's not that I want my unplayables to be good in this format. I just don't want to have to die on turn 3. That's really all I ask for. I just don't want to die on turn 3.
Yeah.
True. I was like, I want to play my mid-range draft chaff with Beans. Come on now.
I mean, to be fair, I think
just
Beans
die on
like
turn-
I think Beans is honestly a perfect format with Pioneer. Like honestly, I think a lot of these cards can port into Pioneer very, very well and not be too busted. But then there's just the mono red deck that is just way too good. If it's the best thing to do in Standard and Pioneer, that's a problem. Like just like saying, well, like it's the only place you can play these cards. Like maybe don't make busted 1-drops. Like you've been doing it for years. Like why do we got to keep doing it? So
Slot Pride.
Oh, Slot Pride. Oh my god. Can you imagine if they put that in the Pioneer?
I do have a
Busted
closing
one.
thought on Pioneer.
Mm-hmm.
So you said something about it, how long or whenever it was a healthy format, because it has never really been catered to by Wizards. I think there was a very sweet spot in time right after Nykthos got banned, when Rakdos and Izzet Phoenix were like the two main decks, and they were the quote-unquote best decks, but they were both still very beatable, and they both checked each other very, very well. Like, so there was like a small window of like maybe 4 to 5 to 6 months after or before a set. I forget what set released after the Nykthos banning, but like after that Nykthos banning, Pioneer felt really, really good. And then it's all of these cards in the last year and a half have been printed and have absolutely plagued the format because, you know, power creep is just what we're doing now.
So I know what you're thinking of. It was actually Karn that was banned, not Nykthos. Nykthos was soft
Karn,
banned.
yes.
But I know what you're thinking of. That was right before Duskmourn came out.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, right
Yeah.
before Duskmourn came out, Pioneer was like pretty darn good. Yep, you had your Rakdos decks that were good, you had your Phoenix decks that were good, and you had your humans, and you had your mono red, and you just had a whole bunch of different decks that were very, very playable. And then Duskmourn, and then Bloomburrow, and that was when it just kind of.
Yeah, like every deck in that specific Pioneer format, like even the tier 2 decks felt like you could have good matchups against most of the field, but none of the decks felt unbeatable. Like every deck had at least 2 to 3 decks that would just absolutely ranch it or cheese it if you found them in a competitive setting. And like that format specifically for Pioneer, like that budget time between Karn banning and before Duskmourn, it felt like the way Magic should be, if that makes sense.
During that format is when I won at RCQ with Goblin. So if that says anything about how good
Yes,
the format was.
dude, I remember
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep, I remember that. Yeah, you're like every RCQ during that little like 6 month span or whatever was golden. I mean, I played Phoenix, but I didn't feel like I could just handle the whole format. There were so many decks where I was like, I don't want to play against that. White decks were terrifying.
You really had to
Right,
you really
like-
had to pick like your battles in that format because there was just so many viable Pioneer decks. Like I know at least in our Michigan meta, it was like it was when you still had vampires, but it was like vampires, and then obviously you had your Amalia combo, you had Phoenix, you had just like traditional Rakdos mid range, you had the Quint combo, you had Lotus combo, you had oh god goodness, a bunch of people were playing like these blue red like torrential Gearhulk piles and stuff like that. Then you had like
It was the
your
creativity decks.
your
The
creativity,
deck.
and then you had your cat oven decks, and then you had just like there was just so many decks. Roots.
That was a
Roots
great
The
one.
cat oven deck with like the Yigra, the thing that made everything food.
This was even pre Yigra. This is when it was just like good old honest like Jonder Rakdos
Oh.
sack.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, back
Man,
when they
and we're in the- Oh yeah, Trail Crumbs. Man, I like playing Trail Crumbs in standard. I miss that card.
Well, it feels like Pioneer is standards crumb right now. But anyways, so so all right.
Yeah.
So anyways, all right. Let's move to the
Hey,
next one here.
That's how we were booing this man.
You know, and the thing
That
was,
was a
I
good
would
one.
totally talk to Carmen Klumperens about this, but she actually banned me on Twitter a while ago, or blocked me.
What a nerd.
So it wasn't even.
That's
So
great.
for context, she used to post this thing on Twitter that was like it was like a flashback card from like a long time ago. Like, oh, do you guys remember this card? And the card was Leviathan from the Dark. And I commented was like confirmed for Modern Horizons 3, and then she blocked me.
Yikes.
So
Uh,
it's not even like I harassed her or anything. Like that's literally what happened. And I looked at her, I was like, oh, she blocked me. Oh, that's cool.
That's amazing.
So, anyways,
Train.
let's move to the next thing. So, does anybody have any, in terms of the whole banner restricted announcement, does anyone have any quick final thoughts?
No.
No.
we said enough.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I figured we did.
Not really. I mean, I'm happy with the band. So a shake up, I love it. I'm gonna start brewing. I mean, without beans, it's gonna suck, but nah.
Yeah,
Hey, you
we
can
get
still
to
have
enjoy a
soup
new
without beans. You're
Essentially a
good.
new format.
It
Yeah,
really is.
maybe.
New standard.
Oh, also, I was playing Magic earlier today. Me and Seth are playing a mono white Caretaker's Talent deck.
Oh
I
god.
think that thing's gonna be very good, and Elspeth is one heck of a card.
Oh, like the mono white tokens deck. That deck honestly
Yeah.
had some legs for a while. It just kind of fell out of favor slightly.
Yeah, it fell out of favor, but I really like it. Enduring Innocence, along with the Caretaker's Talent and like Carrot Cake and Elspeth, it's just a very good value. Very good value.
Yeah, no, I could definitely dig that. So, okay, let's go ahead to the next part of standard. So, standard picks, I wanted everybody to pick a card that they wanted to talk about that they're excited to play in this new upcoming standard format. I mean, it's still standard, but I mean, we are having some cards that are rotating, but obviously with the bans that just happened, it's going to be really just a whole new format in general. So, everyone picked a card that they want to talk about. So, Ryan is the first one. Your card was Wild Ride. Tell us why you picked Wild Ride.
Wild Ride. So it's funny to me that like everyone thought Monstrous Rage was going to get banned. Monstrous Rage is too good. Monstrous Rage is format warping, the 3 power, yada yada yada. The Is It Prowess desks, at least some of them, are playing a mix of Wild Ride and Monstrous Rage. Like if you look on Goldfish,
Fish.
Rage, they're playing like 3 Rage and 2 Wild Ride. Like they're not even maxing out on Rage. And the reason is that Wild Ride is just really, really good with Vivi. So you don't get trampled, but you do get haste. And so I was thinking about this earlier, and I've been playing this in Pioneer even. I've been playing like 2 copies of Wild Ride. You go on 5 mana, you go Vivi, you go Wild Ride. It gets the trigger, deals them 1, gets the counter. Power goes to 4. You spend that 4 in the other red. You can harmonize the Wild Ride without tapping the Vivi. Give it another 4 power and deal a damage, and you hit them for 10.
Yikes.
And like Wild Ride is really good with all your other stuff too. Like Storm Chaser's talent, Wild Ride's great with that. You just attack with the otter for 5. It gives it haste. So it makes it like a sick rip off the top. It gives you a second spell to cast later. It really just fills the role of Monstrous Rage really nicely. Not so much in Mono Red, although if there is a Mono Red deck, maybe they'll play some. But a lot so in Is It Prowess. Like you want to be playing cheap spells, and you want to be turning big creatures sideways as soon as possible. And Wild Ride just fits the bill. I was going to jokingly pick Stock Up as my card I'm excited to play, but, we're all excited.
Boo.
Yeah, but Wild Ride, I think you're going to be seeing a lot more of Wild Ride, and if you didn't like Monstrous Rage, you're really not going to like Wild Ride either.
I was gonna say Wild Ride with Vivi is very good. It gives me like a lava dart type of thing, where it's like it's 2 spells in 1, and you can get it off in the same turn.
Oh,
Yeah, and the
Dart.
front half is just so good on its own. Like Lava Dart, you kind of needed to get some value off the back half, or you needed like a bunch of triggers. Wild Ride, like it just feels like a slightly toned down Monstrous Rage on the front end. Like, and sometimes it's just amazing. Like you go Vivi Wild Ride, it's nuts.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Monstrous Rage at home.
It is, yeah, we have Monstrous Rage at home, but sometimes it's better. Like,
yeah, sometimes
I
it
was
is better.
playing a weird build with like Balmors and the Otter Kitsa and Vivi's, and I was playing Mox Amber. And on turn 3, going Vivi Mox Amber Wild Ride is just amazing.
That is
that's cheating.
disgusting.
Yeah, I didn't think of that, but holy, I forgot.
Mox Amber with Vivi? Ugh.
Yeah, you got
Brother,
Vivi, Balmor,
what's that?
Kitsa. I was testing some things.
So what you get? What did you say? You got Kitsa, Inti, Vivi.
Oh, I forgot about Inti. Yeah, Inti's sick with that too.
Yeah.
Balmor is a big one because I think Balmor's even in standard.
Balmor is in standard, but I will forever say for Pioneer or like even in standard, Inti super underrated card. Oh my God, that card is so good. The card is so good.
Yeah,
I say, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, so Wild Ride. They're 38 cents on Goldfish. Buy them now.
Nice. Okay, we're gonna move to the next one. So Hunter, your pick's next. It's War Leader's Call. You love this card, obviously, because it's a card that you picked. It's definitely a you card for sure. Talk about why you wanted to talk about this card today.
Ward Leader's Call is a 1 red-white enchantment that says creatures you control get +1/+1, and whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, War Leader's Call deals 1 damage to each opponent. A very annoying deck that I used to play was an Impact Tremor style deck back when back in yes, yeah, back in Khans of Tarkir Standard, and it was just so much fun to play do nothing creatures that dealt damage on their ETB through an enchantment like this. But this one also just says that they're also +1/+1, which just makes it great. Even before the bans, I was playing Boros tokens for a while with Gleeful Demolition, Emo Dane's Recruiter, War Leader's Call, because they printed a card called Frontline Rush. And then there was a card called with Nesting Bot, which was a white artifact that when it died, it made an artifact. So you had a lot of wiggle room with your Gleeful Demolition, and because I also played Novice Inspector. And I've played 3 matches with the deck since the rotation has happened, and I won all 3 matches 2-0. I played against Azorius Control. I played against a Beanstalkless Overlord build, and I played against Golgari midrange and just stomped through all of them. This is a card that I've wanted to be good for a while, and it would just never get there because of the cards that are in Standard and what the best decks were at the time. Especially with Monstrous Rage, it made you couldn't take turn 3 off to play a quote-unquote do-nothing enchantment, even though I love the card so much. But it's one of those cards where if you build the deck around it correctly, it does go really, really good. I play Voice of Victory. You play that on turn 2. You play this on turn 3. It nets you a lot of damage. And I've just always been a fan of cards like this. It's just who I've been for a very long time. And yeah, I'm really excited to brew a lot more around this card in every capacity. I might throw this in that mono white tokens deck as a splash and see how that goes. That sounds a lot like fun.
Nice. Yeah, honestly, what's cool with War Leader's Call is there's also actual Impact Tremors in Standard, and there's also the Spark Trooper or whatever, the Sparking Sharpshooter, whatever, that's also a creature.
A shocking Sharpshooter, I think is what it is, or something like that. I play 4 of that also in the deck that I'm talking about for Standard.
Yeah, which is great. I mean, having all those effects, redundancy is good. So, yeah, no, that's really cool. I'm not gonna 100% rush us through this, but the episode is going a little bit longer than I thought. So instead of getting everyone else's opinion on the cards, we'll just kind of get the main person's opinion. So the next one is Landon's pick. Landon's pick is Summon You Have the Name. What is the actual name of this card?
The card is Summon Brynhilder, and this is a Final Fantasy card. Ooh, Universes Beyond.
How dare you?
I don't know. I don't know anything about Final Fantasy at all, so I'm just, I don't like the card because of that. I just think it's kind of like an exciting sounding design on a card. It's one of the Saga creatures, one of the summons from Final Fantasy. It's got some interesting lore abilities. So the Saga creatures are interesting also because it's almost like Vanishing has made its return to Standard, where you're playing a card that's gaining counters, and then after 2 turns of having it, it's gone. And so it's an interesting design. So you get on the front side card advantage immediately, or it's replacing itself, and then on the next 2 modes, you get to haste in creatures from your hand. So the reason I think I'm going to be playing this card is because of the red-green Delirium deck, which kind of made some splashes pre-ban a little bit. there's a lot of Delirium support. There's a lot of really strong Delirium cards. The what is the card called? The spell
FOMO.
that gives
You're
double
missing
strike.
out.
That one too. The instant that gives double strike if you have Delirium.
It's not Violent
Whatever that
Urge.
card
It's
is.
something like that, though.
Violent Urge. Yes, it's Violent Urge. Violent Urge is a extremely messed up card, and so I have a sneaking suspicion that Rule Delirium is going to kind of take the place of Izzet, or be up there with Izzet as the explosive aggro deck. And I really think that with Breakout, a card like Summon Brynhilder is going to be really strong. There's a lot of cool things you can haste out. Hasting out a FOMO is kind of nuts. You can haste out your Patchwork Beasties. A lot of the cards naturally already have haste in the Group Delirium deck. And outside of that, there's also Rakdos Sacrifice, which I'm, at heart, I am a Rakdos gamer. I play a lot of red, but Rakdos is my favorite flavor of red. And there's kind of some insane things you can do with FOMO and Rottenmouth Viper, Spiteful Hexmage, stuff like that. But the thing that you get to do is enable Delirium with an enchantment creature, like Summon Brynhilder. You get to haste out 2 creatures in a row, and also you just it replaces itself, and you can play it even the turn that Summon Brynhilder gets sacrificed. You can still play the card during that turn because you put lore counter on the Saga. So all those things together make me pretty excited to brew this card. There's a few things I'll try, but hasting out a Rotmouth Viper, I just feel like I can't do anything better in my life playing Magic than doing that. So I just look forward to that.
Yeah, I dig it. Honestly, I like it seems like a cool card. I didn't include it on my top 10 list for at least for Pioneer, but no, this card honestly seems really cool. So yeah, I'm glad that you picked a Final Fantasy card that honestly seems pretty cool from the set. So the next one we have,
get Final Fantasy. It's Day in the Sun for a little bit.
Well,
we haven't talked about any Final Fantasy at all.
It'll be a quick one though. We'll at least give credit where credit is due. Let's put it that way. So okay, the next one here is Ray's pick, which is Enduring Curiosity. Why are you excited to play this card in the new standard format?
With the bans, I'm assuming that the bans are going to slow down the format just slightly. So a 4-mana flash creature that lets you draw a bunch of cards is going to be the rival to the stock up decks. So it's like if I can flash in after you play stock up, I can kind of keep up. And then, the same with the bounce strategy and the mid-range stuff. I want to do just a bunch of value things with hitting creatures. I thought about doing like an Azorius tokens type of strategy with like the carrot cake and then the talent and then both the enduring ones, the white and the blue one. But I think that's drawing. I almost draw too many cards with it if I would do it that way. So, but very excited. I didn't get to play it because it was just too slow. I died to, again, the Izzet decks, the red decks, and I'm like, sure, I have cut down. This town ain't big enough, but now it's banned. But having only cut down and now it being a little bit slower, I like it because I can go into that. If I want to play black, I can play Kaido. Again, then it goes into the Esper deck. Anyway, I didn't get to play a lot of that, and now I'm excited to play a lot of that. So the Blue Curiosity was my favorite one when they were released, and because it reminds me of the Biden of was it Thassa?
Oh
Biden
yeah.
of Thassa. Yeah, back in the day when you had Thassa and like mono blue, and you had the Biden to draw you cards, and I'm like, this thing just has splash, and my little dudes get to draw me cards. So the little 1/1 flyers, or was it the Stormseeker Siren?
Yes.
People don't want to kill that. So if you get that up there with 4 mana, it's an easy card draw, and you have a map. So it's like you just double the value right there from the map, and then you get the card draw.
Yeah. No.
So it's I want to do all of that, but in the mid-rangey-ish version, go up to like 5-6 mana, and hopefully not die by turn 4.
Okay. Yeah. Seems legit. Okay. So my pick, probably the lamest of the bunch, but it's a card I wanted to talk about for really two reasons. It's Wiltleaf Liege, a card that I've played in Standard a little bit. It's been a hot minute since I've kind of played Standard, not necessarily because I thought the format was really, really bad, which it was. It's mostly just because I've been really busy and haven't had a lot of time to play Standard. But I'm excited to play this card for two reasons. One, I feel like, quote, like, honest aggro decks are finally kind of back. Like, I've seen a lot of people playing, like, Rakdos Lizards, and a lot of other just, like Gruul Delirium aggro. Like, it feels like honest aggro decks are kind of back a little bit. So I'm very excited to play my green-white Wiltleaf Liege, Burrowguard Mentor, Tristani piles. I think it's my favorite deck to play in Standard. I think it's really fun, and I've always liked Wiltleaf Liege. The other reason I really picked it, and this is just for lack of wanting to truly pick something that's super new and talk about it, I'm just happy to also play Standard again. Like, the format doesn't feel like I have to play one of three decks currently to be able to compete. It feels like there's a lot of possibilities. Like, obviously, there's going to be your token decks that start being really good, or your Dimir tempo decks with Kaido that are probably going to be some of the better decks in the metagame. But it feels like the gap of playing like a fun deck to a top tier deck in Standard has significantly shrunk. And that's one thing that I'm very, very appreciative of. So yeah, that was my pick anyways. The last thing that we have to go to is the member Q&A. So as always, we ask a few of the channel members in the Discord to see, hey, is there any questions that you want us to answer, on the podcast? So I have 3 questions. So this first one is going to be super quick. I'm not even really going to ask anyone specifically because I know what all of our opinions are on this. So Ralphie has 2 questions for us. The first one is thoughts on the newly sanctioned 4-player draft and buy a box commander draft.
No.
Man.
What?
Oh.
No is the
What?
answer. Short, sweet, to the point.
I think I
Fucking
agree
no.
with no is the answer.
and Ralphie, I promise, when we're laughing, we are not laughing at you in any way. We just think that it's such a dumb money cash grab.
It's a money. It's like, how can we sell more boxes to Commander players? Let's make them do sealed league or whatever it is.
Yeah, we all just kind of think it's a bad. We don't like any of it. If, to be clear, people do want to participate in that, like, that's totally fine. It's just like, as a long, a 10-year vet for Magic, I'm like, what is this? So
like, just imagine it was like an F&M, like, oh yeah, it's box draft tonight or box sealed. It's like, that's so prohibitively expensive. It's no good.
It's also going to take you a million fucking years to get it over with.
Oh yeah.
This is true.
Like, I hope everybody plans on being here until 2 a.m. I know we started at 5, but it's going to be a long night.
Yeah. It's bad in every conceivable.
Yeah. So
I have never went to an F&M and said, you know what, I'm gonna buy a box and then build and then play with it.
Clearly, you don't play Commander.
Usually, if I'm buying a box, it's sitting around for a couple of years.
Right. Okay, so the serious question that I would say Ralphie had was, what card or cards would you like reprinted into Standard for Pioneer within the next couple sets? Hunter, I'll let you start with that one. Is there a card that you can think of that you would love to see return to Standard and Pioneer?
Do you want an egregious answer, or do you want a reasonable one?
We'll do a reasonable one. A card that could actually return and not mess up any formats.
A card that could probably come to Standard and not mess up any format, in my personal opinion, would be... now, this is going to be a really weird one, but Electrolyze.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Like, Electrolyze is a very fair card, in my opinion, but it's a fun card to be able to play, and with the way Standard and Pioneer has been feeling as of late, you can 110% get away with playing a copy of that or two in the main deck of your red-blue whatever the hell deck, just because a lot of people are playing a lot of 1s and 2 drops that die to 1 or 2 mana, and it's It was a card that I used to play way back when it was actually good. And it's a card that I just think is perfectly healthy for the format. It's not going to warp the format in any way, shape, or form, and it would just be something fun to be able to also have around.
For sure. Ryan, what is your pick? Ryan or Hunter might have already taken it, but what's your pick for a card to return?
Oh no, I got a spicier one. Lightning Bolt.
Oh God.
That was my egregious answer.
I thought it might be. But listen, I know that Mono Red's like the boogeyman right now, but honestly, like the best answer to red aggressive decks is a card like Lightning Bolt.
You got to fight fire with lightning.
Typically, just doesn't like Phoenix is playing like Torch the Tower and Fiery Impulse, and people are playing Burst Lightning.
Strangle.
Like, just give me your Lightning Bolt.
Yeah,
Give me the Bolt.
I don't want to see Bolt enter the format, but it would maybe fix it, to be honest with you. But Landon, what is your pick for a card to return to Standard or Pioneer?
I can't say that it's a return, but I've tried to hold myself back from talking about goblins for this entire podcast. But
let it out, buddy. Let it out.
Well, you know, I just
Blackie.
think. I mean, I just know. Yeah, well, that's not even coming into modern. They're too scared to put that in modern for some reason. But no, I just give me like Goblin Chieftain or something, man. Why isn't that in the format already? Like we have freaking Hobgoblin Bandit Lord. Just give me Goblin Chieftain, man.
I would love to see Chieftain. I think that's one of the only goblins that I think could realistically come back that should be in the format for sure. As someone who owns 2 playsets of Chieftains, I would love for Chieftain to come back.
Yeah, and we're about to lose Runbelt Hordemaster, the 2-mana Goblin Lord, out of Standard, and I'm not gonna have. There's gonna be an empty hole in my heart, and I need another Goblin Lord to come save the day. So, Goblin Chieftain.
You have Dropkick Bomber.
Lorwyn's coming up, man. 2026. Watch out.
Goblins. Invest in goblins. So, Ray, what is your pick for a returning Standard Pioneer card?
It's probably one that not a lot of people will play, but I will play it. It's Squadron Hawk.
Oh.
Nice.
I want Squadron Hawk back. When that card was first printed, I called it to be super good. Then Cawblade came out, and I just want to equip a Buster Blade on that son of a bitch. Give me Squadron Hawk with Buster Blade in the air.
Hot. All right, so I kind of have 2 picks. So I have the pick that everyone who has been a long time friend of mine or viewer of the channel knows what that card's going to be. So I'm going to save that one to last. My one card that no one ever... You guys probably don't even know this card even exists. The name of it's called Elderwood Scion. It was only in Plane Chase. It's 3 green-white for a 4/4 with Trample, Vigilance, and Lifelink. Spells that target it cost 2 generic more to cast. If your opponent targets it, if you spells you cast that target, it costs 2 less to cast. So it's 2 more for your opponent, 2 less for you. It's a card that I've always liked the artwork on it. It's really basic. It seems fun. I want to put on like I want to put on like an angelic destiny on it and just like win the game. I've always thought that would be a cool card that they've never actually even put in a standard set. And it wouldn't even be too good. It probably wouldn't even really be good at all, for being honest. But it just would be a fun card that I'd love to see return. My actual answer, though, is Thundermaw Hellkite. Are you kidding me? Thundermaw Hellkite. So I talked to Mark Rosewater at MagicCon Chicago and said, hey, you know people. Can you make this happen? And he's like, I'll see what I can do. So he probably just was like, fuck that guy. I'm going to just design more squirrels. So he probably doesn't actually care what I had to say. I did not get to talk to Gavin Verhey because I was watching an unnamed person in the finals of a PTQ, which I'm happy that I was doing that instead of talking to Gavin Verhey, but I did not have a chance to talk to him about it. So maybe at the next MagicCon, I'm going to pull him aside and we're going to have a conversation about Thundermaw Hellkite. It needs to just be in the format. At this point, if they didn't put it in Foundations, they have a vendetta against me. But, So the last question I have, and the last discussion part of this entire podcast, is the last one. Sarwanoki, longtime channel member, is asking wild off-meta decks that could thrive in current standard. I know that I kind of mentioned, I know Ray really brought up the Dimir Tempo and the mono white tokens. I think that those decks could be good. I would say my wild off-meta pick is probably Lizards. I think Lizards could actually be very good. I know people were laughing when Wizards of the Coast revealed that Laughing Jasper Flint was the next RCQ promo, and everyone's like, wow, that card's been unplayable for forever. Like, why did you pick that? Who knows? Maybe they were the ones laughing after all. It could actually be good now. So I would say that's probably my pick. Hunter, what do you think your pick is for a potential off-meta deck that could be really good?
So I guess it's not necessarily off meta because it was part of the meta, like a super small amount of it in some capacity. But honestly, I think some type of Golgari or maybe even 3-color like green, black, X type of deck could start really thriving in the format because they have the pieces to be good against the slow mid-rangey control decks, and they also have like cut down, go for the throat to deal with like the early threats in the games, and then like their mid-range cards are like Unholy Annex, Gix's Command, Shieldred, and that just kind of like almost feels like it trumps most of the other quote-unquote mid-range strategies that could pop up in the near future in Standard.
Yeah, don't forget stock up.
Oh, Splash Blue for stock up? Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
What's stop?
never
Up?
Yeah,
forget
no,
stock.
just like
Why not? Why
Sultai
not?
mid-range.
Why
Sultai
not?
mid-range, man.
Yeah, honestly, could be really good. Ryan, what are your thoughts? Do you think there's a deck? What's your pick for a sneaky deck that could end up being pretty good?
I don't know exactly what it looks like, but make Bob great again. Like,
Yeah.
Dark Confidant is time. Like, I don't know if it's a blue-black Flash or a blue-black Tempo or maybe like a Jund 'em out type deck, but if we're getting rid of all the aggressive red cards, Bob has to be good in Standard.
Yeah, and we have two of them. We have the Bat Bob and we have normal Bob.
I want normal Bob, but sure, you can have Bat Bob if
We
you
also
want.
we also have Bronco.
Yeah.
Dude, just play
Yeah, I mean,
Wait, what?
Oops All Bobs. You don't remember Caustic Bronco?
Oh,
I
Caustic
do.
Bronco. Yeah. Oh, that reminds me. My one standard deck that I played was that Caustic Bronco was like a combo with Terror of the Peaks and the whatever the red 6-mana guy was that made copies of Terror of the Peaks.
Oh,
I
Calamity.
used Caustic Bronco as my engine, and then every time I flipped like any of the big guys, like I think it ran that 6-mana thing. We have the Terror of the Peaks. Anytime I flipped anything higher than 5 mana on Caustic Bronco when it was saddled, felt so nice.
Yeah. I think between Bob, Bronco, Enduring Curiosity, Cut Down, Kaito, like there's gotta be a good blue-black Tempo deck there. I just don't know what it looks like.
Bob would be so good in the Golgari mid-range deck. I need to do some
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Not that I want to make this a conversation about Bob. Well, I do, but I don't. It is seeing active play in Pioneer. So shout out to Bob. Like actually seeing play in Pioneer, which is awesome. And a little bit in Standard too.
Yep.
So, which is awesome. But yeah, though I think Dark Confidant definitely has potential in this format. Ray, I guess like what's your deck that you think could be really good in Standard?
I mean, I touched on it earlier in the mono white deck. Me and my buddy are testing that right now. My buddy said, you know, so Gramps. And then Insidious Roots. Insidious Roots is one of the decks that like made it was in both the Pro Tours, but it got shoved onto the bagboard. I think it's gonna make a better return, and it's just gonna wreak havoc.
Yep, Scavenging Ooze, sneaky card that deck did get for Standard. So I mean, like, there's some good cards in that deck for sure.
Oh yeah.
So
they're all cheap.
Yeah, it's all just cheap. You're able to pretty efficiently be able to clear your graveyard and get a lot of value from Insidious Roots. So yeah, I could see that being a player. Landon, what is your pick for a underrated Standard deck that could be good in this new format?
Okay, guys, it's time.
I'm ready.
Fine.
Hit me.
Goblins is good. Goblins is good now, guys. Now's the time to play it. Buy your goblins. The best red cards are gone, so now the new best red cards are goblins. I'm actually serious though. I was playing goblins at the RC, and honestly, it surprised me. It continues to surprise me. Like, it's a really, really strong shell. And I think, like, with the bans, it's just going to get stronger. Like, it's the go wide aggro deck that I prefer, but also I think there's a lot of really good tools there. Like, we're still going to, even post rotation, we're still going to have the house squad heavy into Cranko thing, which just ends every single game every time you play it. There's, a wealth of strong one drops now with Burnout Bastronaut, Stadium Headliners, just kind of nuts, honestly. And you get to play War Leader's Call if you want. You can play White. You can play Frontline Rush. You make tokens that matter for your tribe. Losing Horde Master is going to be really bad, but honestly, I think like once Lorwyn comes out, there's going to be something else there, and I think the deck's just going to get better and better. And even mono red versions with Agatha's Soul Cauldron, I'm excited to play because you get your Cranko under it, or even like a Stadium Headliner or something like that under a Soul Cauldron, while also having Incidental Graveyard Hate in your main deck. I think there's a recipe there for a really competitive deck. So I'm fine if it stays a sneaky deck. It's always kind of been that as long as I've been playing it. But I mean, I've been to multiple RCs off the back of Goblin deck in pretty much every competitive format. So I will always, I can't not talk about Goblins when I'm talking about an off-meta player. So I think they're just going to get better after the ban.
Yeah, Goblins could be the way to go to invest in. Like you said with Lorwyn, I think a lot of those Lorwyn, like Elves, there's a lot of good Elf cards too. So maybe just like Elves, Merfolk, and Goblins is a thing to kind of keep an eye out for.
I hope so.
For coming out in Lorwyn. So I mean, they're creature types that already have a lot of support in the format, and they could be even better. So who knows? But yeah, honestly, that's really all we've got for this podcast. I feel like we covered everything pretty well. Again, we all tend to typically agree on things, which makes it easier in the sense that it doesn't make us have a 4-hour episode, so my wife is mad at me, but also because, we all have opinions that match, but it's all for differing reasons why we'll agree on the same thing. Even things that, maybe you didn't even really think about. Like, I referenced, like, Landon saying it was a combo deck. I'm like, wow, it's kind of like Infect then in a way. And there's just things that you think about and you realize that you maybe really didn't before. But yeah, before I really hop into the wrap-up, I really want to thank Landon and Ray for joining us on the podcast. They were kind of last-second additions. I was like, you know what? We haven't had a big group in quite some time. Cody and Caleb have been a little bit busy the last few, so I thought, hey, why not we get some new people in here in the mix? I would say they're definitely going to be featured in some upcoming podcasts. So yeah, I really appreciate you guys for joining us on the podcast here. Do you have any closing thoughts on your first episode of the podcast?
I'll say maybe some other, for the next time we're on here, we're gonna have to collect some maybe some magic hot takes so we can get some arguments going in here next time. Maybe some of the channel members can give us some hot takes that we can argue about for the next
It's
one.
usually
But,
me.
yeah.
Oh, dude, yeah, but I'll sit and argue with you any day of the fucking week, man.
I think I said Flage was going to be terrible and that Stock Up was going to be terrible, so it's usually me.
Oh, dude, I would have argued you so hard on Flage. I wish I was there for that podcast. Oh my god, that would have been 2 hours on its own.
I'm gonna say those are my kind of takes right there. I'll call something to be good and no one will touch it, and I'll be like, oh.
Yeah.
So
wait till the next set releases. We'll have some fights.
Oh yeah.
That's
You
all
want to
for
know
me.
what? As of the recording of this video, Edge of Eternity spoilers are in less than a week. So we'll at least be able to, at least in the next episode, we'll likely be pretty deep into spoiler season, or even fully done with spoiler season with how often these videos come out. And we'll be able to kind of figure out, like, hey, what do we think's good? What do we think's bad? There's Eldrazi and Slivers coming back in this set. So who knows what's going to happen with this set, honestly. I mean, Slivers are coming back. Like, wow. The Slivers haven't been printed in Standard in over 10 years. So yeah, we'll kind of see what happens with that. But yeah, that's all I've got for everyone on this episode. Again, this is not the first episode we've done here. So if you haven't checked out those other ones, you definitely should once you're done, obviously, with this one. Huge shout out to all of our channel members that make this happen. If you are interested in being a channel member, it starts at $1 a month, and you can access the exclusive Commander Crane Discord, where guess what? You can put in your questions that you want us to answer here on the channel, and it's only $1 a month. It makes sense. Why not just go ahead and sign up? So that's everything we've got for you. Thanks so much for watching this episode of the Alabastard podcast, and we hope to catch you in the next one.